Sort of feel like this should be higher. Like that. Here we go. Welcome back, everyone. I'm Derek. Welcome to my channel, Euro Superbike Life, where if it's European Superbike related, we're riding them, we're racing them, we're modifying, we're fixing them, we're comparing them, and then we're reviewing them, just like we're doing today here on this particular video. So please consider subscribing if you're not already a subscriber. We are in the Northwest Valley here in the Valley of the Sun. Beautiful Saturday afternoon, about 73, 74 degrees-ish. Sun is peeking out, a little bit overcast, but overall a beautiful day. We are going to do a comparison and a review of my MV Agusta F3 800 and compare it to my other two superbikes, my BMW S1000RR and my Aprilia RSV4 Factory, to see if we can actually call this particular bike a superbike. It falls a little bit short of those guys in the CC department. Both of those bikes are 1000cc motorcycles, or technically 998 cc's. But this one tips the scale at 800 cc's, and I think it's 798 to be exact. Nevertheless, can we call this a superbike? Is it a good addition to my collection? Let's jump right into it and find out right now. This is a 2014 F3 800 with ABS. Now, I've owned a number of bikes. I've ridden a number of bikes over the course of the last 30 plus years. And, you know, ranging from 600s to 1100s back in the day. I've ridden the Gambit and owned the Gambit, and for a 3-cylinder 800cc motorcycle, this bike is incredibly impressive. Now, I've heard that the throttle can be super sensitive on this bike. It has the latest up map from the dealer. I did that, I think, within 1 or 2 days of purchasing the bike. So maybe that's why I don't notice any overly sensitive throttle. In my opinion, if you want to feel a really sensitive throttle, ride an R1M, ride a Ducati 1199 or 1299. Those throttles are incredibly sensitive. It makes it incredibly difficult to ride the bike. But I don't find this to be sensitive at all. I find it to be very responsive and spot on. I can hold a particular RPM regardless of bumps or whatever, and I don't have any problems maneuvering around traffic at stop and go mile per hour and things of that nature. And the bike will do that. It'll get out of its way really quick. And in the past, I've heard a number of reviewers throw around the term of, you know, when they're on a 1000cc superbike, they'll say things like, wow, it feels like a 600, but with tons of horsepower and torque. I think that's a little bit overused. In fact, I think it's a lot overused. However, this 800cc 3-cylinder bike really feels like a 600. It is super nimble, very light on its feet. I can see why this is very popular with the track day guys. I've done a couple of track days on my BMW S1000RR. It's a dedicated track bike, as you guys know. And at the end of the day, after, you know, 6-7 sessions, where the last session is an hour to 2 hours in length, I'm beat. I'm so beat, in fact, that I have the next day, if I do a track day on Sunday, I take Monday off. If I do a track day on Saturday, I'm not doing anything but resting on Sunday. It's really that draining. However, if this was a dedicated track bike, I could see myself riding this all day with next to no problems. Very easy to ride, very responsive. It's no 1000cc motorcycle, so you don't get that, you know, I gotta hang on with dear life, the bike is trying to yank my arms out of the socket kind of thing. But it still gets out of its way pretty easy. Not always a good thing for some people, but it's hella fun for someone like myself who's been riding, well, for a long time. Let's just put it that way. What else? Ergonomically, Bike is very comfortable. This bike has Li-Tech rear sets on it, so they're completely adjustable. I have them in a nice comfortable position for me. The seat is relatively comfortable as far as sport bikes go. I've always said that sport bike seats are they're complete bricks. They're not meant to be comfortable whatsoever. So trying to say that one is more comfortable than the other is really a matter of picking the lesser of two evils, in my opinion. The reach to the clip-ons isn't overly long or wide, so I don't feel like I'm putting a whole lot of pressure on my wrists. I don't also feel like I'm, you know, spread wide like this. It's in a nice, comfortable position. Now for a 3-cylinder 800cc motor, it makes a really nice sound. This bike has a modified stock exhaust, so it doesn't have a slip-on by any particular manufacturer. However, the previous owner cut off the 3 trumpets that normally come off the right side of the bike, and he sort of welded up the holes and then ran them through the bottom of the belly pan on the right side. So you get this fairly nice sound. There are some aftermarket exhausts that sound better, but this is somewhere in between, you know, a stock exhaust and an aftermarket exhaust. But it sounds pretty cool. I don't have any problems with it. Oh, all this debris. Go around this guy. So on other 3-cylinder bikes, namely the Triumph, the 675, 675R, the 675 family, if you will, I was actually considering buying that bike before I purchased this one, and what I couldn't get past was the whistle of that particular 3-cylinder engine. I don't know what it is, and it's probably one of those love-hate things, probably similar to the old dry clutch Ducatis. You get that clank, 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 clank from the dry clutch, and you know, that whistle from that Triumph 3-cylinder engine is probably similar to that. You either love it or you hate it. There's really no in between. Personally, I'm on the hate side of it, or closer to the hate side of it. So I found this one at a really good price, and it's been a fantastic, fantastic bike. I can use this as a daily commuter. I can use this as a canyon carver. I've actually toyed with making it a dedicated track bike as well for a little while. But then came to my senses and said, you know, I really don't need 2 dedicated track bikes, but I have 3 motorcycles and I really don't need 3 motorcycles, so, oh well. So I don't know, but I really, really like this bike. It is easier to live with day in and day out than 1000cc Superbike. Now again, this doesn't have the horsepower or torque of any of my other motorcycles, but it is far, far from slow. I don't think this would have any problems whatsoever keeping pace with anything that's on the road. Short of, you know, roll-on drag races that, you know, 650E and the Cleveland Fast Boys like to do. Short of that, if you're just on canyon roads or your favorite twisties and you're riding with a buddy and he's on a 1000cc bike, you wouldn't have any problems keeping pace with him at all. What else can I say about this bike? This doesn't have an auto blipper, but it does have a quick shifter, and I say it falls somewhere in between the probably the BMW and the Ducati. Quick shifter on my Aprilia RSV4 is super, super smooth. I love it on that bike. The other 2 bikes are not as great. It depends on what RPM and what you're doing where those bikes are good. The Ducati quick shifter does not like to be used at lower RPMs. At higher RPMs, it's sublime. The thing is fantastic. At lower RPMs, not so much. The BMW is sort of the opposite. If you're wide open throttle and you try to quick shift, it doesn't all the time happen for you. The Aprilia always shifts, no problem, doesn't make any difference what I'm doing, and it's super smooth. This is somewhere between the BMW and the Ducati. It's a very distinctive shift, so it's not as smooth as one of those bikes, but at the same time, I have yet to find a false neutral or anything like that. On the downside, I really wish it had a TFT display. The digital display is okay. It's not horrible. Ooh, we've run out of road here apparently. Not going that way, so going this way. I really wish it had a TFT display. I've been spoiled by the TFT on my my former Ducati 1199. I love the TFT display on that bike, and everything else seems to be outdated. And this screen, while it's functional and useful, it doesn't look as nice, and I prefer TFT. It's really comes down to that. This is a fantastic bike. I probably wouldn't recommend it for a beginning rider. If you're going to put them on this bike as a first bike, you definitely want to put it in like rain mode or something like that. I have it in custom mode right now, which gives me full throttle, full horsepower, full torque, and I can adjust some of the settings to where I like it. I would definitely put them in like rain mode or something like that if this was going to be their first bike, so that it's not so aggressive and the throttle's not so responsive. A lot of newbie riders tend to struggle with the throttle a little bit and don't exactly know what to do with it. So I would take some of the responsiveness out for them. However, everything else on this bike is spectacular. Working on it is a bit of a pain in the ass, or at least changing the battery anyway. But fit and finish wise, again, it's not as good as the Ducati and the Aprilia, but definitely better than the BMW. For reliability, that remains to be seen, but thus far, I haven't had any problems with the bike. But overall, fit and finish is not bad, but it's not on par with the other two Italian manufacturers, but definitely better, in my opinion, than the German BMW S1000RR. Here, you know, the gap lines over in this area and over here are really good. For the most part, they're consistent. I like that they've covered up all of the stuff in here, which BMW doesn't do. However, this sort of, I don't know, crappy looking plastic isn't the best. We've talked about the display a little bit and how it's not TFT, but it almost looks like an afterthought. It doesn't look integrated like the Ducati or the Aprilia. One of the problems I really, and we've never talked about KTMs, but one of the things I really dislike about the KTM RC8R, or all of the RC8s, is that the display looks like a complete afterthought. It looks like they yanked that off of some other bike and slapped it on there. And I sort of get the feeling with this bike that was the case. Not completely. It's still a little bit more stylish than that KTM display, but it doesn't seem to be, aesthetically, it doesn't seem to go with the lines of the bike when we're looking in here. You can see the display sort of doesn't follow this line of the fairing here, sort of comes down, and you know, it would have been nice if they made one specifically for this bike. But I'm splitting hairs there. That's not a big deal. As far as rear view mirrors go, I have aftermarket CRG bar end mirrors here. So I can't tell you how good or how bad the stock mirrors are, but if they're anything like your standard sport bike stock mirrors, they probably all suck. But these CRGs are fantastic. So if you don't have them, I highly suggest getting them. The picture is perfectly clear in them. I can see everything behind me. Now I do have to take my eyes off the road for a millisecond in order to see them. However, I can see everything behind me and on either side of me. So the Popo 5.0 cops, whatever you like to call them, they are not, moo cows. They are not sneaking up on me on this particular bike unless I'm completely ignoring my rear view mirrors. This bike does have ABS and traction control. They both work fairly well. I haven't put them out on the track, so I haven't tested them to full extent. But they are not overly intrusive, in my opinion, riding on the street. That may be a completely different story on the track, and we'll put this on the track at some point in 2018. I currently have sport touring tires on here, They came with the bike. I didn't put them on, so I'm going to burn these up first and then put some stickies, probably some Q3s or some Bridgestone S21s on here. And we're going to go out to the track on this bike and see how it does and have some fun. But it will probably be my daily rider. But I'll probably put all the miles on the bike commuting back and forth to work. I have about a 32 mile one-way commute, so I'm going to put some miles on this thing. But it has about 4,700 miles on it. I don't know for sure what oil is in the bike. The previous owner says he has Motul in here, and it's of a red tint, so that's probably true, which means it's probably been changed at least once. But you know, the bike being in 2014, it's now 4 years old, so it's probably done a whole lot of sitting. So in the next couple of days we're going to change the oil, so be on the lookout for a video for that. But overall, would I recommend this motorcycle? Abso-fucking-lutely. Excuse me, Mom, sorry about that if you're watching, but absolutely, this bike is fantastic. I don't care if you're a European superbike owner like myself, if you ride Japanese sport bikes, if you like 600s or 1000s, whatever it is that floats your boat, this bike is fantastic. This is a really difficult bike to beat. It does everything really, really, really well. And you can't get past the super sexy single-sided swing arm that it has on it. The sound that it makes is phenomenal. It's a gorgeous bike. I mean, it's, after all, it's designed by Italians, and they rarely design ugly things. But it's a gorgeous bike. It handles really well. It doesn't have any quirks or qualms. It's good all around. Fantastic bike. Super light, super easy to ride. Fantastic sound. Looks fantastic. Whatever. And it goes like stink! Lots of low-end grunt, decent mid-range, and no problem on the top end. It does have a little bit of a buzz that it transfers through to the clip-ons, but if you don't have bar-end mirrors, if you have the stock mirrors that go right up here, you can put some heavier weights on the clip-ons and probably get rid of that. But everything else on this bike is fan-flippin-tastic. Well, that's a wrap for this episode, guys. Thanks for tuning in. If you like this video, please click like or smash it if that's your kind of thing. But please consider subscribing. I have a lot of great things planned for 2018, and this is just the start. But I'm Derek. This was Euro Superbike Life. Until next time, take care.